This was the biggest middle finger he could give the entire country.
We know that this administration is a vengeful one. We know this is a vengeful man.
You have no morals. He can't even stand in 20-degree weather.
Biden holds himself on this certain moral high ground, and he's setting a very dangerous precedent.
Against a very dangerous man.
Yes.
Did something happen?
Hurry up. The ladies of The View are at it again, y'all. Melting down like a bunch of popsicles during a Kansas summer over Trump becoming the 47th president of the United States. Sunny Hostin starts off pretty upset that Donald Trump's inauguration will be held on Martin Luther King Day, talking about hypocrisy like she just discovered the word. Then she brings up Trump canceling DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and somehow ties that into Martin Luther King's dream of economic equity. I mean, it's just a joke.
The one thing that I did think about was the hypocrisy of having a man be inaugurated to be president on the same day as we commemorate MLK. And that same man saying that he was going to get rid of diversity, equity, and inclusion.
The irony of it.
The irony of it, because Martin Luther King not only wanted racial equality, he wanted economic equality.
I had to pause at this point. They hear economic equity and start cheering like someone announced Oprah was back and giving away cars. I mean, what is going on? I mean, spoiler alert, economic equity is just another fancy word or a euphemism, or rebranding, if you will, for communism. And no thanks.
And that is something that people tend to miss. And I want to remind people that he said that Black Americans deserved reparations for the injustices they faced. He argued that reparations were a form of justice, in fact, not charity. And he said, quote, "It's all right to tell a man to lift himself by his own bootstraps, but it is cruel jest to say to a bootless man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps."
Yeah.
And so in thinking about that, and Donald Trump saying things that this country would be a meritocracy, you're talking about a man who didn't become the president of the United States because of merit. He hasn't had he had no political experience whatsoever. He had no business experience. He was given everything that he has. He is a legacy hire. He is, if anything, a DEI hire, a didn't earn it hire.
I mean, does Sunny Hostin believe that they were actually going to cancel the inauguration because she didn't like the date? I mean, get a life. Like somebody's going to run into the Oval Office and say, "Hey, everybody, Sonny's mad. Shut it down. Cancel everything." Yeah, right. I mean, that's how democracy works, though, right? And then Sunny Hostin drops the claim that Black people are still bootless in 2025. I mean, what planet are we on? You know, Martin Luther King actually fought tooth and nail to make sure that Black Americans had opportunities. And he won, as far as I'm concerned. If Sunny still thinks that Black people are bootless in 2025, that's more about her mindset than reality. And the next ridiculous claim she decides to drop is that Trump didn't earn it. I mean, that's supreme hating there. I mean, get your haterade juice out and sip it up. I mean, that's like saying LeBron James isn't good at basketball. You might not like the brother, but the fact is, he got skills, but denying the fact that he's successful, I mean, that's just next level delusional. And then comes the claim by Sunny that Trump didn't earn it. I mean, she just drinks so much haterade. I mean, it is disgusting. Trump turned a small 70 to a $100 million New York portfolio into a multi-billion-dollar brand. That's only small if you're like an Elon Musk, but he turned it into a multi-billion-dollar brand. And then he breaks into TV, makes his name for a global brand, then with no experience, turns around and beats the establishment and drug Hillary Clinton. Deny success if you want, and you can't really deny success. Come on, man. But I don't know. It's just next level delusion. And let's not forget the classic playbook still being used. The "you better stay in line, boy, and do what you're supposed to."
The other thing that I wanted to talk about that a lot of people are talking about is that there are these Black performers. You mentioned that there were entertainers at the inauguration. There are these Black performers that were performing for Snoop Dogg, Nelly, a couple of others. And I saw Keith Boykin, a friend of mine, say something that I thought was really important, and I wanted to play that clip.
If you look at Donald Trump, the man who would refuse to rent to black people in the 1970s, who tried to lead a lynch mob against 5 black and brown kids in the 1980s for the Central Park case, who refused to allow black casino workers to have a prominent place in his casinos in Atlantic City in the 1990s, who spent 5.5 years lying about Barack Obama's birth certificate in the 2000s, who came into office and then attacked black people like Colin Kaepernick, who attacked Ruby Freeman and her daughter Shay Moss for simply doing their jobs as Fulton County election workers. You dishonor those people when you go and perform for this man who has done nothing but dishonor black people.
So, you know, for me, even though I didn't watch any of the balls or anything, I think what Keith said is so important for us to remember, that this is who Donald Trump is.
I mean, the shame black folks who step out of line card. They'll call you an Uncle Tom. They'll call you a sellout. I mean, heaven forbid you stand up for yourself or you say, this is the greatest country on the earth and I'm making something of myself. And they can't handle that. It seems as though we're supposed to stay in line and stay in our cage and don't get out of order and just follow instruction and not have an opinion. But who's going to stay in the party or wants to stay in the party where the big pitch is, you're black, so you can't do nothing. And then Alicia steps in and she says, look, Trump's normalized now. Like it or not, 75 million people voted for him. And she's right.
I was watching and thinking it's time to retire the phrase normalizing Donald Trump. Donald Trump is normalized. Whether you like it or not, 75 million people voted for him. He is now as much a part of American history as George Bush, Barack Obama, and any other 2-term president. And I was shocked by the imagery of he left 4 years ago in disgrace. He left, barely anyone showed up when he announced his reelection 2 years ago. And now he came back to D.C. like a conquering king. He had the biggest titans of industry there. He had celebrities. He had fashion designers. He had Democrats and every former president there. And I think that it's a moment to take note of why he won and the reasons that he did, but also Democrats are not a footnote in this. They had 4 years to beat him. They had the chance to make a case against him. 4 years ago, they had the White House, the House, the Senate, and Silicon Valley. Now they have none of those above.
Trump is as much a part of America as Barry Soetoro and George Bush. I mean, if their same argument is Donald Trump's bad, scary, and orange is stale, they're losing. They just lost that. Why are they still clinging to this? No one's buying it anymore. Now let's get into Joe Biden's last-minute pardons. And Alicia says it best. Pardoning your family at the last minute was a terrible look. And truthfully, man, to me, it's like he grabbed all the life jackets on the Titanic and then said, good luck swimming. What? I mean, it's shady. It's sneaky, and it screams desperation. It's just a terrible look.
I think it was prudent that Joe Biden preemptively pardoned people like Dr. Fauci and Mark Milley, who are political targets for Donald Trump. He has expressed that. I was floored that Joe Biden pardoned his whole family, and let me tell you why. He's either, the most charitable interpretation is the Titanic is sinking, I've got a life raft for my family, but anyone else who challenged Trump, you better swim or you're drowning. That's my most charitable interpretation. And finally, he didn't do anything to protect people who testified against Donald Trump unless they happen to be wrapped up with the police officers. And it sets a very dangerous precedent. Now Donald Trump can basically advise staff and his family to do anything unlawful and then just issue a blanket pardon when he leaves office. I think it was disgraceful and it's going to harm his legacy.
I think comparing Biden's pardons to Trump's is like comparing apples to Volkswagens.
Seems really similar when Jared
it does not seem similar to me because Joe Biden's family and the people he pardoned in the January 6th committee have not actually committed crimes. He is trying to prevent them from spending the rest of their lives fighting the government, which is no easy feat.
Sunny jumps in, trying to justify his actions. She said, well, if I can protect me and mine, I'd do the same. I mean, it's basically admitting, yeah, we're corrupt, but whatever, nothing to see here. Keep looking. This is like saying I'm robbing the bank because somebody might do it later. I mean, what happened to principles and morals and values? Or does it just mean I don't care how we win by any means necessary, even if it's cheating, even if it's below honor, even if it's dump truck juice effort? It doesn't matter how we win. We just want to win. I mean, that's sorry.
Just wanted to put a quick button on it because I was not offended by Biden pardoning his family because I think, just like Maya Angelou said, when someone shows you or tells you who they are, believe them the first time.
Right.
We've already had a Trump presidency. We know that this administration is a vengeful one. We know this is a vengeful man. And if I can protect me and mine, I would do that. And so I think we need to show Joe Biden some grace.
My fear is
Okay,
the
that's
precedent
all.
it's set, because I think Biden holds himself on this certain moral high ground, and he's setting a very dangerous precedent.
Against
that's
a very dangerous man.
Yes, that's going to allow that man to basically give blanket pardons to anyone who chooses
But he
to
would
commit
do it
crimes.
anyway.
Then Sarah Haynes chimes in, mad because Donald Trump didn't thank Joe Biden on his way out.
I was really disappointed, not surprised, just to be clear, but disappointed that there wasn't one kind thing to say about the outgoing administration. Because
Au
even
contraire, he was merciless to the outgoing.
That's
what
my
she's
point.
saying.
That's my
There
point.
wasn't one
Even
kind
if you are, even if you find it really hard, there could have been. They spent the morning together. They had a welcome tea. The President Biden and Vice President Harris did everything we all criticized Donald Trump throughout the door. They did all the traditions of handing off the baton. And he couldn't even muster up one small thing to say thank you for kindly welcoming us back or something. It just it was a kind of a gut punch of sorts.
Well, that's not who he is, right? I mean, he's not a statesman.
But thank him for what exactly? Thank him for inflation, maybe? Or maybe the botching of Afghanistan? Or maybe opening the border like it was a theme park or an amusement park. Biden didn't even bother to have a press conference about his midnight buy. He just slid out the back door like a shady car salesman. And Donald Trump thanking him would have been like somebody keying your car. I mean, it's obvious that the Democratic outrage hate playbook is over, worn out, finito. And at this point, we can't deny Donald Trump's impact to society and the world. Oh yeah, don't forget, hit the like button, subscribe, and ring that bell so you don't miss any of our content coming forward.